What up? What up?
Hey,
Happy Thursday, Get Real Sisters Pod family. Welcome
as
to the
always, we
room.
have a few minutes or a couple minutes, because I-10 by 10, if you know that reference, you know that reference.
Um, we have, as the ones that are entering in, you see, we already have our special guest already here waiting to tap into the conversation with us. We're super excited. Um, we got some sauce for you tonight, okay? And this is the expert, the guru. But like I said, we'll wait for the introductions here. We'll let a few more of our lovely friends join the party. How is
Your
everyone?
sweater, Jasmine.
Oh, come on. Got the shirt on right underneath it. Thank you. Representing Kingston.
That was Tidy's dad made a bunch of sweatshirts and t-shirts on his first birthday with his face and everything on it. So I think Tidy still has his, but I don't know what happened to mine.
Already?
Yeah. I mean, that was for his first birthday.
Oh, first birthday. Okay.
Yeah. So they were lost in translation.
Nina was sharing she had an omelet for dinner.
Breakfast for dinner is always good.
What did you eat?
I had a shrimp burger that
Mm,
I made, and it was so amazing.
shrimp burger. That sounds slamming.
Yeah, I've never had a shrimp burger, but the texture of it was good. It like really mirrored, probably more close to like a turkey burger, at least
Mm-hmm.
like texture wise for me. But I'm definitely gonna be making that again. I think. I even think Layla. I made it the night before Layla left for her DC trip. But when she goes to the Boys and Girls Club, sometimes they give them dinner by the time we actually are able to pick her up. So she had already ate, so she didn't get to try it. But I think she would even like it. I believe she
Okay.
does.
Do you think you're gonna have leftovers or probably not?
Oh no, yeah, those are gonna be gone before she gets back. But I'm gonna make them again because I would put they were that good that I would put them in like a basic rotation of meals.
Okay. I might need you to swing me that recipe. Might need
Now,
that. All right, Road. Um, cool. Well, let's be mindful of time and stuff like that. But um over here, Swiffer me this, right? I don't know if you've used your Swiffers today. Um, she was
I,
my. I literally bought. Obviously, we have one. I think I've used it 1.5 times since we've been here.
you're talking about the mop or the duster thing?
No, the mop.
Okay.
Yeah,
We don't even have we have a regular mop now, but
yeah, we do too.
in the spirit of spring cleaning, if you guys watched our episode, if you haven't, there's always time to go back and rewatch what we've posted to our YouTube channel. But since spring is upon us, we focused on spring cleaning. Me and Jasmine talked a lot about spring cleaning when it comes to the relationships you have in your life and things that don't serve you. Our expert today is going to take it in a different direction, but still things that you could be working on to spring clean, get yourself organized, get yourself in a better space that can actually help the rest of the dynamics of your life as well. I think first, though, me and Jasmine, we want to touch base on the what's the word activity. We've been including that at the end of our videos. Jazz, you want to share or remind people what that activity was, and then we can jump into that.
Absolutely. We were, diving in, talking about cleaning up your space, as Shanice mentioned, right? Not just your house itself or your closets, but the activity was for you to be able to go through, your contact list, all of your social media, and taking a look at who is there and getting rid of the people that are no longer serving or that you don't really feel that you're connected with. So, Shanice, how
I
did
actually
you do?
did it. I know we talked like a couple days ago, and I was like, oh, I didn't do that yet. I was last minute with it, but I did go through my contacts, Facebook, Instagram, and I think on each, like my contacts and my socials, I got rid of at least 100 people on each, and I was like,
Wow.
yeesh. Like I don't know why I had so many in all of those areas, especially my phone contacts. I was like, for me to be able to move 100 contacts, that was kind of crazy. But I followed through. I did it.
I am very proud of you. Sadly, I don't have the same report. I had all intentions, but don't fret. I carved out time tomorrow specifically because I don't have a single meet. Well, actually, I have one meeting on the calendar that I plan on, making sure it's done. So I gave myself, even though, I should have had it done before this, at least by the end of this week to make it happen. To say that, though, I did start cleaning out my photos.
I started doing that too. That's one thing I didn't fully go through, but I started doing that.
Yes. Nina, I don't know if I ever told you, but I have, I've gotten more storage, paid the extra, blah, blah, blah to have it. Let me see. Right now, because, I feel like when I first got the phone, immediately Apple was like, your storage is almost full. But I have 16,562 photos. And that's me. That was me shaving. I think I had shaved like 1,000. So a lot more to go. But that is going to be a huge one for me. Like I think like the contacts for sure. But I think the photos are because that's something I in our live, I talked about, or excuse me, our pre-recording, I talked about, hoarding, having emotional ties to clothing. I feel very similar about photos. I definitely hold on to a lot of them of just like, I see both sides, pros and cons of both sides of like keeping it right. I want the memory, but some of them I definitely don't need.
Same. I kind of felt that way going through my contacts or even the social media. I'm like, some people I could definitely say I have not contacted this person sometimes in years, but I still felt a little bit bad about deleting them. But then I was like, in reality, we just still wouldn't connect. So
Right.
bye. You probably won't even miss me. You don't even know. That's fine. But I had that little like twinge with a few people. But I was like, okay. But what it's done is done.
Mm-hmm. Nina, have you done that? Like whether like recently or just in the past where you've cleaned up your contacts, your contact list?
I do that periodically, especially when I go through the list and say, who is that? I don't even remember who that person was. Sometimes I try to tag them because some of them are people that I need for things maintenance, So, I try to put like plumber, or then I'll think I haven't used this number in 2 years. I don't even know who this person is, and then I'll delete them.
Yep. I was running into that too. I'm like, I have no idea who this person is anymore. I'm sure they were great and the reason why I put them in my phone. But
Right.
I'm starting to get better with putting like the connection in
How and like
details.
Yeah, instead of putting the location, I would put the relation. Why are they why are they here?
Yeah.
Right. That's smart. I love it. Well, for those that are, again, we would love to hear from you of how your what's the word activity went. Were you successful? Have you gotten through it completely? Were there any challenges that you came across? Because there could have been, right, where you weren't ready to part ways with people, or that attachment that we might feel like we have, or connection rather. Definitely tap in, let us know. We can definitely talk that through. But without further ado, we'd love to kind of switch gears because, you know, as we mentioned, we could go on and talk about the relationships and all that good stuff and cleaning up house there and what that means, what that looks like. But when we talk about cleaning up your space, entering into a new quarter, it's not just about those things. And we've, you know, a huge topic that I think a lot of us avoid talking about. I'm over here kind of spilling the beans before we even give an introduction. So let me just quiet here. I'm going to pass the baton right over. As your screen says here, Nita. No, don't spank me later. Girl, you should. I'm going to pass it over to you. Tell the family here who you are and all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Nita Gonçalves. And first of all, thank you for inviting me to be a part of your podcast. I was pretty excited. I liked, first of all, Shanice, I think you said, or maybe it was Jasmine, what doesn't serve you. That's key. And carving out time. Those two things.
Yes.
But let me just introduce myself by saying that I am Shanice and Jasmine's grandmother. And so I was truly honored for them to ask me to, you know, come and share some things with you. So I'll just introduce what I've been doing over the years, starting with teaching school. I did that for a number of years. And then from there, I used those skills and moved it into corporate America and worked in several industries, transportation, the more recent one, insurance and banking. And I was able to use everything that I learned all along the way, which brought me to kind of here. Because when I got started with what I'm doing now, which is I'm a candidate for to become a financial counselor. And I should have that certification within the next 5 months. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Yes. That is huge.
So that's my introduction. I have been actually over the past 3 years now, been working on that accreditation. So it's been a mountain climb, but I've learned so much and I'm happy to share all of what I have learned.
I love
that.
Or some of what I've learned. Say.
Yeah, and your expertise is going to be fresh. So it's things that, although you're working towards that accreditation, it's all useful information that we are so glad you agreed. We were a little bit nervous that you might say no. I don't know. But we're glad that you are here to kind of at least maybe start the journey for some people. I know I'm still working on my finances and getting to a better place. And you've always been a great person to be a sounding board for things related to, I mean, a bunch of different things, but finances have been a focus most recently.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely, or the both of us would love to ask some questions that I think can foster that conversation around organizing your finances or cleaning up your finances.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I personally would like to start is just what is important.
Shanice, I'm so sorry. Real quick, I did just cut you off, so my bad. But just because I want to tie it in to, you know, what we were speaking about in our episode and echoing what Shanice was just saying previously of, you know, we talked about at first looking at your circle, right? Like, what does that look like? What is the support and the people that you have around, and what Shanice was just honing on. And I really want to shine some light. Nina is someone, as Shanice just mentioned, that we lean on, like the entire family. I don't know how her shoulders are still up there, but like we really lean on her, like in times for everything, like in need. You know, I can, you know, me and Shanice talk about it all the time, but like moments that I'm feeling super low, Nina's the first person I usually think of like just knowing that she is an amazing sounding board. She's very she comes from a space that is like unbiased. and she, you know, provides extreme, it's advice, prayer, just ears to listen. Like, it's just everything. And I think it speaks volume to who she is. And clearly you guys know Shanice and I, and hello, we right over here, you know, that is where we get it from. But it's just beautiful to, you know, bring it full circle here. And, you know, again, what we're speaking is finances is such an uncomfortable conversation for a lot of people. And I know the very first time that I made outreach to Nina, I was like, oh, because I knew I was banging up, in the sense of I was out there spending, still a little crazy, but, you know, better. But I entered the conversation of nervous, right? I'm like, she's my grandma. Like, I don't want her to, even though my entire life she's never judged, but it was an uncomfortable feeling to just be raw and like, here it is. So when we say she is an expert in what when we're talking about these finances, like these questions, I feel like, and feel free in the chat to throw in some questions if you have any that you want her to answer as we move along in the dialogue. So sorry.
Wow.
I'm back on the mic.
You're up now.
Oh, I need to plug in again. Here we go. Let's see here.
I think your computer was about to die.
Yeah,
you're good.
You're good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Don't let that happen again. No, sir. So what I was going to ask is, for a starting point, as to why is it important for people to organize or plan their finances?
Okay, that's kind of a two-part question. I'll start with, why is it important to organize your finances? And I kind of have one word for that, and that is accessibility. Knowing where to grab what you need to grab when you need to get it. There's so many times where I've been on the phone talking, with a bank or some entity that needed information. And it's so great to be able to just open the drawer, pull out the information, and be able to say, okay, this is my account number, or this is my this, those kinds of things. So accessibility. I like the idea of knowing where I can get my information. That's me. But I think that for anyone, knowing where to get what you need in order to go to the next step. And so I would answer the question, why is it important to plan your finances, by saying that it's how you achieve your financial goals. So setting those goals is what helps you to move forward. So it's important to plan your finances. And, when you're younger, it's easy to not pay attention to those kinds of things. I'll just a little bit of background. In terms of being organized, I think that was kind of part of my personality. I was one of those people, I was one of those children who wanted everything in order. I didn't want anybody to touch my stuff because I didn't want it to get messed up. I would put it in certain places. I liked to keep things neat. My mother was a real stickler around the clothes that she bought us. She wanted us to take care of them. So I just made sure that I did that. And it kind of goes along with my personality of being what I'd call a rule follower. I figured, if you follow the rules, you'll get where you need to go. And I think that that's kind of how it is with finances. If you follow the rules, then you'll get where you need to go. And the rules depend on the things that you value. You set those up around your goals and try to line those things up. That's the whole idea. So going back to, everybody has a money story, and you've heard the expression, more things are caught than taught. Have you ever heard that expression before? In other words, you may not sit down with Layla and say, Layla, this is how you do this. This is how you manage your money. But she may be watching how you do it. So I used to watch and listen to my parents. And them coming out of the silent generation, they they came through the Depression when you had to pinch, and it was just very difficult in the the 20s and 30s. So one of the things that my father always said was, you have to have a roof over your head always. You have to eat. You have to put away. You always have to save money. And so that was embedded in my head. And then I would watch how my mother, when she would plan for our school shopping every year, she would lay things away. She'd save, pay, save, pay, save, pay. So by the time school started, she had, we had all of our school clothes, but she would have done that over the summer, over the whole span of the summer. So I learned a lot of saving from my parents, and I liked the idea of accumulating money that I had worked for. I started working, I remember, at around 12, and I had this little part-time job, and they told me that I had to give a third to the house, a third was for the bank, third to save, and the other third was mine. So that's
very familiar.
Yeah. I feel like I didn't know that Dad got that from you.
Well, I don't know that either.
So that's how I did that,
That's awesome.
And so that was kind of like my introduction to the whole idea of money and saving. So I can honestly say, give that to my parents, that's kind of how I got started.
That's awesome. And to go to the 333 or third, for any parents that are out there coming from someone that, that is, like I said, like our father growing up, that's what he had Shanice and I do. Of course, as the child in the moment, I hated every second of it. I was like, this is so dumb. Like, I worked so hard for my money. Now my father's trying to dictate where my money's going to go. Like, so angry. But to say is that I felt like in the beginning it was really good. I highly encourage you to do it with your children as well. It does teach you a lot. One thing I'd say now is I wish he was more strict. And that's what he's probably going to listen to this and be like, what? You gave me such a hard time. It was just like, if
I had none of the savings by the time I was even 18. I to them, besides the finances, that was out the window, and it definitely set me back for sure.
One of the things that I was especially proud of was when I did start working as a teenager, I would, I saved, I kept that same, third. And I had saved enough money so that what I didn't know was that my mother was saving all the house money. And I was able to take a trip to California for the summer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
So the summer that I was 15, I spent the summer in California. And so that was a real confirmation and affirmation that saving is good. It's really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then of course, when a significant part of my parenting was as a single parent. And so, I bumped it up a number of notches, which is saving, saving as much as I could. Because, as parents, you have to save for specific things, including, well, one of the big things that I had to save for was I wanted both of my sons to go to private school as if I could afford it. But that's what I learned. It ties into values. What did I value? Education. So that was a big part of it. And then, of course, there's the clothes, the field trips. And so that is what really got me started with a spending plan or budget, I guess you could say.
So what I'm definitely hearing is, and I already knew, but because I feel like I get it from you for sure, is that organization. You've always been, a very organized and structured as a person, but with your finances, it started at a young age, right? I'm already going to ask like an advice, because I feel like that's amazing, and I feel like that's not the norm though, to be organized. and have it kind of structured. What would be like your advice for folks that aren't super organized? Like, how can they make that shift and change?
That's a really good question. I think that, in the spirit of the spring cleaning, I think that there's certain things that you need to do. Well, I'll start by saying one of the first things that I had to clean up was my student loans. I paid my student loans off, like, finally. And rather than, I was doing haphazard kind of saving. But then I began to do systematic saving where I didn't even see that money. It just came automatically out of my check into a savings account. And I never paid attention to it. It was just there. It was just there for emergencies. And always happy that I didn't, necessarily have to use it. And then, beginning with that, the systematic savings, and then contributing to my 401k, that really got me going. Because I started seeing it accumulate. And, that was just a really good confirmation of, wow, savings important. It does accumulate, and just lay back and watch it grow. But for somebody that's challenged doing that, I think you need to start with small things. You think you should start with things that are easy for you. For example, if you're doing some spring cleaning literally in your house, how do you start that? You start with a plan. That's how you begin. And I think that, for example, you have to understand that there's a reason behind it, and you have to have a why. Strong why. What's the point? So for somebody that isn't as disciplined as they'd like to be, you can get there. You can get there. One of the quotes that I love to use is something that Arthur Ashe, when I heard it, I just grabbed onto it. And he said, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. So
I like that.
Start where you are. Where are you? You have to ask that question. Where am I? Okay, are my finances a mess? Is my organization a mess? Well, what's a good place that you can start? And put a stake in the ground and start there. It could be that your paperwork is kind of like in different places. Maybe that you can start there. Maybe just gathering the things that you need to gather as it relates to your finances. Is it bank statements? Although I do know that people are, our world has shifted into the digital age. So lots of things are, digitally stored. So do you know where to access those? So let's start with one piece, starting with one piece. It could be your bank statements. Okay, it could be, now this is tax season. Where are all the documents that you need for your taxes? Start a tax file. Start a file for car insurance. All the different areas of finances that you have to address on a monthly basis, on a periodic basis, on an occasional basis. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Okay. So if you're just starting out, basically start small.
Start small.
Develop your plan.
Exactly.
Your plan with whatever you hold the most value at the time.
What keeps you up at night? Sometimes we think that, that doesn't really matter. But when you're in bed and you're saying to yourself, oh man, I really need to do this. What is that thing as it relates to organizing your finances? Okay, so I would say that bringing that mindset into your thinking is going to help you achieve your financial goals. So being conscientious, actually thinking through things before you get started on them. For example, if you were going to, Shanice, you teach classes. So what's the first thing you do? You establish some objectives, right? Okay, so then you write up the objectives, and then you decide how you're going to achieve those objectives. the methodology, what materials are you going to need in order to do that. It's the same kind of process. So for me, when you talk about tools, we'll put it like this. If everything looks like a nail, you're going to use a hammer on it, right?
Mm.
So you've got to put different things in the toolbox,
Right.
so that you can, use different tools. You might need a screwdriver today, something that's going to, dig into that wood. You might need the hammer. You might need a pair of pliers so that you can pull something out. So let's talk about spring cleaning. What do you need to get rid of as far as paperwork? One of the things that I do want to talk about, and we don't have to go into it now, but for example, storage. Where do you keep your files, or do you have files? Do you need to go out and buy file folders? You go out and do other things, right? Well, let me go and grab this. Yeah, you may not feel like going to Home Depot or Office Max or wherever you would get them, or you could order them off of Amazon. Grab, get a filing system going. Then decide, okay, so how do I want to divide up this? Do I want to have a file for bank statements? Do I want to have a file for insurance? Do I want to have a file for taxes? All these things. Okay. And again, going back to that whole accessibility, being organized, having access to your materials. Credit card statements. If, I don't know how you see, everybody has a different system. Sometimes, you have your phone and that's all that's all I need, but it's important to go over that information. Some things you need actual physical papers, especially when it comes to taxes. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But I think the main thing is to prioritize and asking yourself questions. What do you want to clean up? That's the first question I would ask. What do I need to organize? And that's where the prioritizing comes in. Again, based on the importance. Shanice, you might have daycare things that you need to file. It's probably to my detriment at this point, but there would be things that I would file for your father and Chris as it related to their school. There were certain documents that I needed. Do you have a file for your birth certificates, marriage certificates, those kinds of things?
I really love the idea of just like knowing where to find the stuff. I personally do use my phone heavily for a lot of these different aspects, but I find that, say, if I'm calling some business and they need my account information, now I'm like, oh, can you hold on while I log into my app and things like that. So I love that as being part of something that you can first start getting together, organize where your information is, even if you don't know all the ins and outs of the details of your expenses, but you know where to find the information at the drop of a dime. That is super, super helpful.
Along with that, I would say a place where you can store it. There's different places in my house where like, for example, there's a spot where I do Bible study. There's a spot where I write my bills. There's a spot where I do this. So it's interesting because what happens is it helps to habituate the process. When I sit down to write bills, do I want, and I pick a place that's going to be pleasant, some place that I can enjoy as well. The kitchen table, I don't like the kitchen table to do, do my books. So the other piece of that is I like to pick a certain time frame of the day. So for example, I'll pick one day a week, and that's just devoted to books. It might be 3 hours. That might involve me going through some files, getting rid of some things. It might involve something that triggers me to, oh, I need to call someone, I need to call this person, or, some sort of business related issue. That's fine. But I think I probably spend in a week, I probably spend about 3 hours related to financial things.
Oh, wow.
Because, I check my statements, and I want to talk a little bit about identity theft as well. Okay, so
there's been a lot of that going on.
I'm gonna say,
so there's essentially 5 things that I would say to remember around tools. First of all, the what do you need physically, the files, the storage space, I would say dedicated space. That's when I was talking about certain things, certain places that I want to do certain things. Another thing that you may or may not have thought about is having a safe for your important documents. I probably spent 2 years fretting crazy, thinking, oh, what if there's a fire? What if there's a flood? And I finally said, and then I went online and looked at types of safes. And then I read all the reviews, and then I said, oh, I don't want to get this kind because of this. And then it finally got to the point where I said, put a stake in the ground already. It's been 2 years, you're spending way too much time on this. And so I went and got the safe. But, to store important documents, if you were a homeowner, you want all your deeds in there. You want your marriage certificate. You want your birth certificates. Really important stuff that's almost irreplaceable. Any insurance papers, those kinds of things.
That's smart. Because if you did run into any of those disasters,
right,
the safes aren't going to be burning down or being flooded. So.
And then the final thing is, and I want to impress on you, if you don't have one, go out and get one. A shredder.
Oh yeah, I need that stat.
You need a shredder, a cross-cut shredder, because, as I mentioned earlier, identity theft is rampant, and it comes in, people still do dumpster diving, believe it or not. And I would encourage you to find out in your community, they have periodic shredding events. So you could look, for example, in Dorchester, when do they have the shredding events? Sometimes they have them, every quarter, but and they'll allow you to bring X amount of documents, boxes, whatever, and shred them. In fact, today I looked up where the next shredding event was, and they're having one April 20th, and you can't sign up for it until the 1st of April. So I put that on my calendar, sign up, because I want to take some things that need to be shredded.
So obviously the things that need to be shredded would be things related to your identity and things that people just have no business knowing. So along with the points that you wanted to bring up anyway, what would be things that people should know about protecting that information as it relates to identity theft? So I've seen so many stories, including breaches at my job. It's been kind of crazy lately.
Yes. So the discussion is pretty broad, because fraud is in and of itself an entity that has colored so many. It has it can destroy your financial life and takes such a long time to get back. But anything that has your social security number on it, your address, nothing leaves my house unshredded. You get all kinds of junk mail too. I even rip that up. I shred that. I'll take out just my address and shred it. If I get something from Amazon, I'll shred it. My address. I also have one of these. Somebody gave it to me, but essentially it blacks out. It's like an ink, and it blacks out addresses and things. If I don't feel like pulling out the shredder, but it does black it out. So to answer your question around what should you be looking out for, your passwords, you need to be changing your passwords on a regular basis. Okay. My bank sent me my reminder to change my password today, so I changed it. And it's easy to put that off, And I'll do it. But I said, let me just do it right this minute. And so I thought of a password and I changed it. But there's also, there's different kinds of password managers. If that's something that you trust, you can, look it up and make your own decision. Take a look at some of the reviews on them, which ones have never been breached, which ones have those kinds of things. So you want to protect your password. You want to, if you have a passport, all those kinds of things. Utility bills that I get, I shred everything. I shred everything. That like I said, that whole piece is in and of itself a whole different topic. But just for throwing it out there, buy yourself a shredder and do it. Don't delay.
Because I know, I mean, yes, it definitely can be a way bigger topic, but as it relates to finances, I've even been a victim myself of someone randomly being able to find my account information and during tax season, not really necessarily noticing because there's more in my bank account a few years ago, then started noticing some random charges on my account from places I don't shop. So
yes.
It can be the smallest thing that you're not thinking of at the time. That's why it's important to be careful with that information.
It is. And one of the things that you should do on a regular basis, and you can do it once a week, the government now allows it once a week. Check your credit report. Check your credit report. Prior to the pandemic, you could only get a free credit report from each of the credit bureaus once a year. And then during the pandemic, you could get a free credit report. Or was it? I think it was every month. And then now it's once a week. So I check all my credit reports on a regular basis. That's really important because that's where you can see if anybody's in your account. You can have an opportunity right away to dispute any charges that don't belong to you. You can do that online, and they will respond to you within 30 days. You should just check that anyway. I had an address, somebody had put an address on my credit report on one of them in San Diego, that I had lived in San Diego. So, right away I sent a dispute in, and they had a response to me within 3 days, and all three credit bureaus sent me a notice, literally a physical letter saying that they had made the change. So
isn't checking your credit score also helpful, not only for disputing anything that could be tied into someone taking your identity, but also planning for your finances, because a lot of things are tied to your credit.
Right. Credit, exactly. So yes, your credit report, you should check on that often. Let me just quickly go through the how long you should keep certain documents. Okay. So there's a rule of thumb for kind of each of them. For bank statements and credit card statements, if you keep them for a year, you don't need them any more than a year. And you can check with your bank, but most banks will keep your documents for 7 to 10 years. Okay. Cancel checks a year if you write checks. I mean, who writes checks anymore? Everybody just throws out their debit card. But I was looking at my bank statement today, and every month there's 4 checks that I write out every month. So the canceled checks, you keep those for a year. Your utility bills, a month. One day I'm like, why do I have all these utility bills? This is ridiculous. Well, my head, I want to compare the highest winter bill last year to the highest winter this year. Just wanted to have the information. Then I said to myself this year, I said, no, you don't need to do that, because on every bill, it shows you how much you used the previous year in that month. So I'm not saving utility bills anymore. This is, clean out stuff, right?
Right.
Oh, there was another file that I didn't mention, medical files. That's something that you should probably have. I mean, just for records for your, I don't know, dental, for your children, the dental appointments and these kinds of things. That's up to you. But I like to keep that stuff and then shred it when I need to shred it.
I mean, and those can also have expenses on them too if it wasn't
Exactly.
a free service.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got then the other document is your 401k documents. How long do you keep those? About 6 years. Okay. Now, tax documents, how long do you keep those? Okay, typically 3 years. They can go back 3 years. Okay, if you own property, or I should say, if you have rental property, you should keep them for 7 years. Okay, if you own property, you don't ever want to throw any deeds out or anything like that. That's forever. Okay, so the 401k is about 6 years. Taxes, anywhere from 3 to 7 years, depending on, but I would say average 3 years. Canceled checks a year, utility bills a month, bank statements and credit card statements a year. The rest of it, spring cleaning.
Shred it.
Get rid of it. Swiffer me this. So today I started, pulling out everything that I'm going to stack in the boxes that I'm going to take to the shredding. Because I'd say a year and a half ago, I did a major, dump of documents. But I went through every single piece of mail to make sure there was a social security number wasn't on it. And if it was, that got shredded. So, and you'd be surprised what your social security number is on. You'd be surprised if you go through your work. So I'm not sure where we want to go from here.
I mean, you definitely shared so much information, and we can tell that you're passionate about what you do and your involvement with everything you're learning. What made you want to go the route of becoming a financial advisor or consultant? Like what tipped it to, we can tell you've been super great about doing your own, but what made you want to help other people with theirs?
Well, I think part of it was that a colleague of mine got her accreditation, and she was telling me about she wasn't telling me anything personal about the clients, but she was talking about how much she loved doing the coaching and the counseling and the progress that they would make and how excited she was. And I said, I want to do that, but I wanted to do it because I love to get behind. I don't like to be in the forefront. I like to get behind people and kind of like push them forward. I'll be in the background and I'll be pushing you up the mountain. You don't have to see who I am, but just go up the mountain. And I thought to myself, wow, what a satisfying thing to do for people or with people. Because when you're coaching someone, you are not doing the work. They're doing the work. You're just there asking the questions, helping them to get to their own whys or their own why nots. Whereas with the counseling, you actually, you do some teaching. You do, you show people how to do things. You give them resources. You provide, it might involve homework. It might involve teaching them something literally in a session, how to access a certain type of information or how to use a calculator that would help them figure out how much they need to save in their retirement or how they're going to pay down their credit card bills. Those kinds of things. Those would be tools. So you show them, different tools and what have you. But it's just so exciting to see people grow, set financial goals, meet them, and then and it just builds all this confidence, and they just keep going. And pick the next goal, be it a short-term, intermediate, or long-term goal. That's very exciting to me. I love that. So that's kind of what tipped me over. And at the time that I wanted to do it, I couldn't, because I was too committed to some other things. And one of the things that I've learned about myself is I'm pretty single-minded. When I set my mind to do something, I pretty much, I'm on that path. And I try to make sure that my focus stays there. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to focus on it at the level that I wanted to. So I put it off. And when she informed me that there were scholarships for this program to become a financial counselor, I didn't know if I wanted to make the commitment, because I knew that it would be a commitment. And I waited until the last minute, and I applied for it, got the scholarship, and I said, this must be what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm still working on my 1,000 hours. I've got about 300 more to go. So
shoot, after this, you have plenty more to be added onto it.
So
I have I'm just trying to think of the people that are just starting out, and just I'm sure being a counselor and advisor, you've probably heard and have seen, some of the most common, reasons of why people are struggling with, their finances, even if maybe they do have, they have that goal, maybe, they might have their why, not concrete down, but what if reality is, when you lay out your finances, you aren't bringing in enough money? What about those people? What should they do to try to finesse or figure out where to scale back on? And I'm sure, you've already mentioned priority should be, house, food, the day-to-day living that you need to survive. But
right.
I feel like that might be, and maybe it's not, maybe that's not a common theme that you hear.
No, it is. It is. In fact, I work with an organization. It's called Women's Money Matters, and those are exactly the kind of people that I'm working with, particularly those who have very low income, and they still have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is you start, as Arthur Ashe said, you start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. So let's say someone needs to earn more income. So let's talk about what are some ways besides what you're doing that you could earn more income. Do you need to get a part-time job? Do you need to have a hobby and turn that into money? Do you need to start a small business? Are you a great cupcake maker? Do you need to walk dogs? Do you need to babysit? All the different things, and they think about these things. What are some of the things that you can do in order to make more money? But where we start is with this equation, and that is income minus expenses is what's left over, your savings. So if you don't have savings, you either have to borrow it, or you have to get it some kind of way. Okay. You don't want to charge it, because that's counterproductive. So it's helping them think through what it is that they can do to increase their income. Or the only other side of the equation is to reduce expenses. That's all you can do. And so then you need to really look really hard how to do that. And there's all kinds of things that people don't even realize that they spend money on. Like, for example, if you were a person who purchased coffee every day, and that coffee cost you $2.50 per cup, and you drank 2 cups of coffee, that's $5 a day. Basically, by the end of the year, you're spending about $1,250 on coffee. So take that money and go on ahead and buy yourself a coffee maker. Those kinds of things. Are you buying lunch every day because it's convenient, or do you prep your food and take your lunch? Right. What an amazing difference that makes in budgets. I mean, there's just so many ways that you can tweak the budget. A lot of people have subscriptions that either they're not using, or they don't really need.
Guilty.
People, there's different things that we just kind of take for granted. And so
I feel like we make a lot of excuses to why we spend on those things too. When we're saying, I want to save, I want to do this.
Yeah.
But we're getting in our own ways for things that we could totally live without, or at least for a period of time. If you did want it, you could bring it back once you're in a better spot.
I'll tell you what's exciting is when you see these women making progress and they're so excited about it, and they just keep finding ways to either increase their income or change their habits, because habits are a big part of it. Well, I want to stop and get coffee in the morning, or there's nothing wrong with me, eating out 2 or 3 times a day. I had a woman who was spending almost $200 a week eating out. And so when she stopped doing that, all of a sudden she was putting all that money into her savings, and she was shocked. She was saving all this money, and her credit score was going up, and she was excited, just those kinds of things. It's like that snowball effect. So, Jasmine, to answer your question, that's where you start. That's where you have to start. And you have to make hard choices. You just have to make hard choices.
Absolutely. I love it. Honestly, I felt the coffee thing was a little bit of an attack. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, really?
But no, it's real. It's because in the moment, I shouldn't say for me, it's not coffee, but I go to the gym every morning, and when I'm leaving, I'll get the protein drink, right? And that's $4.25, every day. And so just recently I was like, well, girl, I have the protein shake. I'm okay just being lazy. And it was a habit of mine to just do it that way, to just grab it at the gym and go, instead of coming home and making my protein shake like that. It's super easy to do. So, I'm not that great with math that quick.
That's like if you did that every day, that's like $30 a week.
Right.
Okay.
So what, $120 a month like that?
Well, we'll do that times 4. That's $119 a month. Times 12. That's over $1,400 a year on a protein drink.
Come on now. For a little baby muscle that might peak out or maybe not. So, that'll
Did you say for a baby muscle?
A little baby muscle peaking. But like you said.
And then the other thing too is to ask yourself, okay, so let's say you want to buy shoes or a purse or something that you don't need, that you don't really need. How many hours of work is it going to take for you to pay for that? If you make X amount of money, dollars, X amount per, how many hours of work is it going to take you to pay for that? 3 hours?
That's a good way to look at things. If you broke it down to how long you'd have to work to afford something, I bet a lot more people would be like, I'm not trying to put in that many hours for just this.
Exactly. A lot more folks would be inside staring at the wall than doing what they're doing.
So what other questions, might you have?
I mean, I feel like we hit a lot of all the ones that I can really think of. I don't know if you had any final thoughts that you wanted to share overall, or, recap on anything that you felt important as far as tips for people, either currently working on their finances, getting started with their finances. I know there's been a lot of tips shared.
Let me just, okay, here are the I'll give you three things that I think the tips are. Ask yourself the questions around if it's concerning buying, do I really need this now? Okay. If it's concerning organizing, what do I want to clean up? What do I want to get the cobwebs out of so that I feel really, really good about organizing, financing. And then the tools. So those are the tools around the space, the actual physical space, the storage, the safe, the shredder. I was trying to keep it all to S's, right? So we've got the space,
organization in there.
The space, the setup, the storage, the safe, and the shredder. Okay.
That's how you say that.
Right. I know. So those are the things that I would ask yourself, what is this worth to me? What value is this to me? Because again, this ties in with your goals. And when you have a goal, ask yourself why. Why is that important to you? And that'll help you to set up some goals and establish some priorities.
Why, y'all? We keep bringing it up. I think that comes up in almost all of our episodes. It's so crucial, and to really spend some time on it. Right? Not just like, well, in this current, like today, my why is, it's like, no, but look at the larger picture. What are you,
you know, if you want to get a really good sense of what you value, go back and look at your last month's bank statement. See what you spend your money on. I mean, if we have to just be honest.
Right.
And you know, you're the one that's in control of your budget. You can change, you know, your budget shifts every month. You know, it's not like it's set in concrete. Your spending plan changes because needs change. You know, but you've got, you know, your fixed expenses, you've got the variable ones, then you've got your periodic. So the fixed expenses, your rent, your car loans, and those aren't going to change. Your variable ones, you know, they fluctuate. You know, the utilities, the gas, you know, those kinds of things. And then, of course, one of the things that I think should be a fixed one is savings.
Yes. You definitely helped my, let me tell you something. Since working with Nina, that saving looking all right. Okay. And it, like I said in the beginning, I was super embarrassed, like starting out. Like I've been very fortunate in my roles and in what I, you know, take home, but I wasn't putting it in the right places. And she definitely helped shift my
focus.
God, she helped push me from the back into where I needed to go to.
Pushing you up the mountain. But
right.
First of all, I do want to thank you for, I mean, it's an honor. And my heart was so touched when you talked about the things that you talked about. I never told anybody that I was working with you. So
I tell everyone.
You're
my grandma. What?
You know. So at any rate, yeah, it's been a pleasure, and you know, I'm happy to, you know, share what I've learned. By the way, I started doing people's taxes, and you really get a glimpse into what people are doing. You know, so
for sure. Now, this might be too invasive, so definitely shut it down if it is. But for anyone that happens to be watching and might want to contact you, is there a way that they can, if they wanted to lean on your services, or?
Sure. Right now, it's pro bono. Absolutely. Okay. Yes. I guess I can give you my email.
Yeah, we can connect, you know, of course, offline, and then we can,
sure,
you know, share.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I mean, and again, I know we've had plenty of conversations, but I'm still over here taking notes. I'm like, yep, I need to do that, and boom. Right. For me, my first stop is I need to go get that shredder, and I think because this is the universe, just because I was just thinking about it again last week about this, I need that thing.
Oh, okay, good. Well, it feels like there was so much more that I could have shared, but I thank you for letting me do that, and I really
could be a part two. Never know.
Sure. We can just focus on credit or, you know, a specific aspect. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Great.
Thanks so much, Nina.
Thank you. Take care.
Right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Wow, guys, that was so much. I couldn't agree more that could have went so many different ways. We could have been on here forever and ever. So be on the lookout, because most likely we're gonna bring her back to get even deeper into some of those topics. But great conversation. I got a lot to think about. I need to figure out my dedicated space. I need to get some
Shoot.
file folders. I need to get organized in here.
Right. It was a lot. It was a lot. It's a lot to unpack. And like I said, like just naturally, I think a lot of us just get overwhelmed. Just the word finance, we get overwhelmed. And as Nina was just mentioning, start where you are. There's no shame. There shouldn't be any shame in where you are. You can only go up, but you have to focus on those whys and really reel in. Huge play of what she just, at the end where she was talking about just looking at your last month's finances. That's what she had me do. And wow, baby, was it eye-opener. I was like, girl, like I already knew I love food, but you're doing way too much.
Same.
So
bad.
You eating for sure.
And if I'm honest with myself, most of those just because I was being lazy and I had food in my house. So
right.
But yeah, I mean, definitely let us know what you guys thought about this conversation. If you're part of the replay crew, let us know. And share this conversation if you know other people that could also get the most out of keeping up with the spring cleaning and starting to really get a hand on organizing your finances as well. Because I think all of it, people that don't serve you, things, activities that don't serve you, and going through your finances, these can all trickle into each other and impact your daily life. So we got to focus on figuring out those things that can, elevate us. So yeah.
Yeah, we're all going to the top, right? Like that's where we're heading. And it starts with these pockets. So I'm excited for all of us to tap into this Clean It app. Swiffer me this. But yep, we will connect with you guys next month. Looking forward to it. We got another spicy topic coming hot off of the press. But yeah, I think this is where I do one of these.
Yeah.
Peace.
Have a great night, guys.